off with the questions posed by MP York. What about an inspection by a structural assessment by VROMI or ICE? The structural integrity of the affected area was inspected by VROMI as well as by an engineer from UNOPS. The second question was, if this took place, what were the findings? The structural integrity has been found to not have been affected by the fire due to the fire retardant paint that was used in the damaged area by the fire. Question number 3, when can the staff expect batch 13? Batch 13 has been completed and disseminated. All other remaining batches will be completed before the end of Q4. Can clarity be provided regarding additional insurance or risk coverage, if any, does the current justice staff have, in particular the staff of the prison, but also KPSM and staff that fall under the same type of category? Or is this something currently being worked on by the minister? The prison itself does not fall under the Rechtspositiebesluit Politie. However, for all personnel that do fall under that decree, such as the KPSM staff, the government is liable for any injury or death in the line of duty. This liability is embedded in the rights framework of that Rechtspositiebesluit. At present, there is no separate or additional insurance policy beyond this statutory provision. That said, my ministry is working together with the Ministry of Finance to explore what options are available for additional coverage with a view to including this in the 2026 budget process. Then I move on to the questions from MP Lewis. Is the prison facility insured? Yes, the prison facility is insured. Question number 2, what is the status of the insurance that has been approved by the government based on Article 114, Chapter 10 of the Rechtspositiebesluit Politie? The national decree, the LB, to implement the insurance was returned by the governor's cabinet last year because it required some substantial amount of corrections. In addition, the approved coverage was then for the year 2024, which we found then would not make sense to apply it retroactively at this point. For that reason, we're now exploring what other options we have together with the Ministry of Finance with the intention of including a feasible arrangement into the 2026 budget. It's important to note that this type of insurance is intended to leverage and mitigate government's financial risk, and in the event of an injury or death to personnel falling under that Rechtspositiebesluit, government remains fully liable regardless of whether an insurance policy is in place or not. Then I have the question, how is SOAB getting the data from Loan and Salaris to do validations? I can confirm that SOAB is not receiving any information from Loan and Salaris. Then I go on to our data and files leaving the administration building for this validation. SOAB is being provided with the physical files by the ministry, and they are returning these files once the validations are completed. Did workers agree for the transfer of files and data to SOAB? No, however, SOAB has been engaged in this process from inception by previous ministers, or by the previous minister, Minister Anna Richardson, and SOAB has also signed a non-disclosure agreement. Will the HR workers of each division be consulted on these validations, or is SOAB just going to work from the placement letters? All files will be processed by the ministry's HR department. If deemed necessary, the respective department will be contacted. Who will verify that the placement letters are correct? Placements are verified against the placement matrix. Who at SOAB has the knowledge about every justice department to know that functions and function levels are correct for this validation? SOAB assigns tasks to their staff accordingly, also taking into consideration the core tasks of SOAB to provide a tailor-made service to the government. What is it going to cost the country for SOAB to do these validations? There's no additional cost to the Ministry of Justice, as this currently falls under the government's audit plan that we have with SOAB. Is finance going to accept these validations just because SOAB did them? Yes, the Ministry of Finance has agreed to accept the validation from SOAB. Question number 12. The MP has been updated that batch 13 has been sent back by the governor for ratification. Can you confirm whether this is true? And if so, what specifics are required for this long-awaited batch? The batch was not sent back because there were any errors or anything like that. So in that respect, this was untrue. We can confirm that the batch has since been signed off by both the governor and the minister and has since been disseminated. Then I move on to the questions from MP Otley. What was the cause of the riot? I want to start by saying that while there can be no justification for acts of violence, destruction, and the endangering the safety of others, that the unrest stemmed from a long-standing misunderstanding among certain inmates regarding the legal framework on early release and the use of ankle bracelets. Many prisoners were confused after hearing reports and reading in the news media that suspects charged with similar offenses such as robbery or possession of firearms were being released from pretrial detention pending a court verdict. This discrepancy has led to a significant tension within the prison population. Inmates question why those individuals were allowed to return home, while they themselves remain incarcerated under, for what they feel are seemingly similar circumstances. The inmates themselves do not seem to differentiate between pretrial detention and actual sentences. A specific point of concern was the perceived inconsistency in the application of electronic monitoring. Inmates expressed frustration over the use of ankle bracelets due to a lack of understanding of the policy, and they saw it as a substitute for incarceration, which it is not. It is a controlled, legally regulated measure used in specific cases. This lack of understanding and perceived inequality created confusion and unrest among the inmates, which subsequently resulted in this riot and fire. Has the matter been resolved? The ministry has made clear to the Inmates Association that such behavior will not be tolerated and that the policy decisions are made within the legal framework. At the same time, steps are being taken at the policy level to address the concerns raised. The ministry is currently reviewing the existing early release policy, specifically the regulation that allows inmates to be considered for release after serving 2/3 of their sentence. And this review includes the possibility of reducing or adjusting the threshold, which could allow for earlier conditional release under certain circumstances. This initiative forms part of a broader effort to bring St. Martin's correctional policies more in line with practices seen in other parts of the kingdom. This was communicated to the Inmates Association, emphasizing that the current legal framework and any forthcoming adjustments remain a priority in order to reduce tensions and prevent further misunderstandings. And we'll also, of course, be going further into detail on those when we respond to the two motions presented during the budget debate. Is there any truth to the reports of a disturbance at the FDC in Simpson Bay, where some of the inmates from Point Blanche had been temporarily transferred? Yes. After the transfer of several inmates from Point Blanche to FDC in Simpson Bay for temporary housing, the inmates were placed in a secure holding area, and a planned search operation was conducted to ensure safety and security. The search resulted in the confiscation of illegal contraband, including cell phones and marijuana. Upon being returned to their temporary holding area following the search, some inmates expressed dissatisfaction by threatening staff and threatening to repeat what was done in Point Blanche a few days earlier. However, the situation was quickly brought under control by prison personnel with the assistance of the arrest team from KPSM. No major injuries or damage were reported.
Are you SXM insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXM is cardless. Request your My SXM account today and enter the virtual office of SXM. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
SXM, yeah. Your social and health insurances.
The Ministry of Vromi, Department of Infrastructure Management, together with the Police Department KPSM, is making changes to traffic on a section of Canagita Street and Manzanella Stake, Phillipsburg. The Canagita Street from the intersection with Percy LaBega Street to Manzanella Stake will now be a one-way street. Inbound traffic can enter Canagita Street from Percy LaBega Street and drive straight ahead or turn left into Manzanella Stake. Outbound traffic leaving town on Canagita Street must make a right turn onto Manzanella Stake. Entry further into the Canagita Street will no longer be permitted. Outbound traffic exiting Manzanella Stake onto Walter Nisbet Road can either make a right or left-hand turn. The Ministry of Vromi, Department of Infrastructure Management, and the Police Department would like to thank the public for their attention to this change. Please follow the new traffic rules and signage and drive safely.
.24/7 TV programming on www.stmartinmediacenter.com, SXM Daily News, PBS NewsHour, Now You Know, Com programs, documentary, entertainment, sports events, Saturday children's hours, religion programs, and movies. Click on SXM TV broadcast to see your favorite programs.
Like my colleague echoed in the beginning, urgent meeting. This was an urgent meeting call since May. And we are here today. And some people may have a disconnect for those watching in the public and thinking that we're carrying on issues over and over again. But granted, this was an urgent meeting call by then. I hear the minister, honorable minister, spoke about the progress since the fire. She spoke about Family Day through you, Madam Chair, spoke about GED program, the sewing program, and also the music program. But Madam Chair, the Family Day, although very gracious for it, was before the minister's time. So the specific question was progress made since the fire. GED has started back. The sewing room, in which we all visited during our meeting at the prison, one person is using the sewing room and not even an inmate. The music room is not being occupied as well. Why? Lack of guards. So the inmates cannot even partake in these. And this was stated to us, and it's still the same situation, lack of guards. See, Madam Chair, we browse over certain things, and thank God Parliament has clarifications, because when clarifications are brought up, like from MP La Cruz, we understand that, oh, I need to verify and check and go back, because we try to give the image that everything is on the up and up. And that is a very, very good clarification from MP La Cruz, because this is on the life insurance of the police officers. Madam Chair, through you to the Honorable Minister, we spoke about the unrest at the prison, and it was said that the inmates, quote unquote, had a unrest due to prisoners being released, or the notion, or through the media, of prisoners being released for the same crimes that they are being detained. And the minister spoke as if it's not true. Because we have an issue at the moment, overpopulation, overcrowding, and persons are being detained and released due to lack of space. It was also stated, Madam Chair, through you, that the ministers was under the prisoners was under the impression that the ankle bracelet is a substitute for sentencing. And I hear the minister speak of this over and over in different medias and different realms, and even referring to the motions that we presented here in Parliament, that was passed in Parliament, as if we are presenting this as a substitute for sentencing. I know that never came from me, nor the motion. What this was, and has been recommended by the courts and those via the Netherlands, is to institute this to help with the issue and help relieve those prisoners that were on their way out, never as a substitute. And if the prisoners are confused, they were not the only one confused as it pertains to the way that people are being released at the point blank prison, Madam Chair. The minister states that it's fair, it's clear cut. Well then, certain members of parliament is confused. Many lawyers, many law firms are confused because in doing the motions, through you, Madam Chair, I sat with different law firms. And it has been said that there is no clear-cut measure across the board. Madam Chair, she can speak for herself, I'm pretty sure, but we have a lawyer in here who seemed confused as well, because there's no clear-cut measure across the board. The only person saying that is the minister. Speaking of that, I understood that a draft policy was sent to the prison lawyer. If this is true, and if it's true, can this draft policy be sent to the Justice Committee? The minister is supposed to, based on the motions, return in September with an update, but if a draft policy is sent, we would definitely love to see it, because the Honorable Minister answered the question of MP Franklin Myers and say, all the ministers, justice ministers, initiated such release policy. So I would like to see where and what this minister contributed. Madam Chair, the Honorable Minister said that there was no charge for housing prisoners in Bonaire besides the travel, and prisoners are on their way back. And in the same breath, the Minister speaks about discussing with Aruba and Curacao for housing specific inmates. So will Aruba and Curacao be free as well? I would like to know that, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I heard the minister speak about prisoners being released upwards, having discounts of 60%. And then I see 50% on another article. I would like to clarify which is it. Is it 50, 55, or 60%? Also through you, Madam Chair, when I asked the Honorable Minister about Aruba's discount of 10%, the 10% was not based on VA or early release. It was based on an additional 10% based on resocialization, rehabilitation, not being in problems, and way to motivate these prisoners to better themselves as they will eventually be released. Because I keep saying it, St. Martin rarely does life sentencing, so which means that 95% of them will be back in our society. It is also mentioned in the governing program the fact of rehabilitation. So I look forward to seeing that. The minister spoke about data needed to confirm whether crime increased, decreased. Madam Chair, it's not a competition. Whether crime increased or decreased, I don't need data to tell me we have an issue. I don't need to wait on data to tell me we have an issue. And I've even sat with the Honorable Minister of Justice and rendered and offered advice. And I see some of this advice has been taken, whether we acknowledge it or not. I see the presence being improved of police officers. But I do not want us to move in the direction of stigmatizing as if only scooter drivers commit crimes. So I'm still waiting on a clear-cut precision way forward. Because then I see the Indian merchants saying, we want security, we want more progress, and then I see the minister saying, we are doing what we can do within our realms. So where are we going to meet? What is the update on the request from the Indian merchants on protection of Front Street?
can the minister confirm whether the committee established by the former Minister Anna Richardson to assist with a more transparent and effective process for the legal placement of the LBAs of all justice workers is still active? And if so, what progress was made with that team? 2, as former Minister of Justice myself, during my tenure, I also had a team in place comprised mostly with the HR and the P&O personnel, okay, which successfully initiated 7 batches in 6 months and 3 weeks. Minister, I did also understand, so this has to be removed pertaining to batch 14. As you mentioned, batch 14, it's on its way. But I just would like to know, in a more accelerated process, how we can get it done, because we're basically, I think, about nearly 8 months forward. I know there's some hiccups. I know that a colleague left, and this is one of the questions as well. Because I understood now with the SOAB process, I understood the same colleague that left is the one doing the validation through SOAB. I would like to know if that is so. That is the information that, that reached to me. My question 3, I probably might have to take out, but I would like to reiterate. On Justice Day, June 17, 2025, the minister publicly stated that by the end of the year, all LBAs will be completed. I stand corrected. Can the minister also explain how we're going to get it done, if we have the necessary manpower now to do so? Through you, Madam Chair, can the minister clarify whether phase 1 of the Lance-Busley process include justice pensioners and those who have resigned in order to determine the total amount required for payout calculations? It also determines the budget, the following budget. What measures is the minister taking to avoid unnecessary litigation related to justice workers' LBAs? I also understood that it was stated by you, Minister, through you, Madam Chair, that you would also like to avoid court cases. Does the ministry agree that litigation costs could be better allocated towards serving justice employees? Through you, Madam Chair, this following question also came from, I got it from Curaçao. Union representatives in Curaçao been asking pertaining to the function book of the Coast Guard. If I can get an update on the function book for the Coast Guard personnel. I think I did ask questions pertaining to the police station in a deplorable state. Yes, so I think that was also answered. But I also received this week, yes, I had a meeting where some are still complaining pertaining to mold. So I just would like to know if there's any assessment being recently done with regards to mold. Has the ministry assessed, through you, Madam Chair, the ministry assessed and properly restored the police holding cells? If so, what were the findings? Question 9, I had to reframe it as you already spoke about the insurance as well, because that was coming again. So now that you mentioned, Minister, through you, Madam Chair, thank you for your response regarding to the insurance for the personnel of KPSM. But I would like to know if the other civil servants have the same type of coverage like the police, meaning the justice workers at the Point Blanche prison, seeing the situation already that also happened with the fire. It's of one of my concerns, the Coast Guard, Customs, etc. To elaborate further, I know that the rechtspositie for the police also entails immigration and landsrecherche. So I would also like to know if that insurance also covers them from the police. Okay? So in light of the fire incident at the Point Blanche prison and house of detention, and the tragic case of a fallen police officer killed in the line of duty, can the minister, through you, Madam Chair, provide clear update on what concrete measures are being taken to ensure the safety and security of both justice employees and, by extension, of course, the people of St. Martin?
SXM, your social and health insurance is SXM, your social and health insurance.
Are you SXV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXV is cardless. Request your My SXV account today and enter the virtual office of SXV. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
SXV, yeah, your social and health insurances.
24/7 TV programming on www.stmartinmediacenter.com, SXM Daily News, PBS NewsHour, Now You Know, com programs, documentary, entertainment, sports events, Saturday children's hours, religion programs, and movies. Click on SXM TV broadcast to see your favorite programs.
The schools are reopening soon. At the end of last year, there was quite some articles in the paper and discussions about schools having challenges finding teachers for the upcoming year. Can you comment on how are the schools situated in terms of finding or recruiting the teachers that they were looking for in order to be able to open with a full complement of teachers?
Yeah, for the public schools, I don't believe we have any gaps existing in teaching staff right now. Of course, we have what is budgeted for and what we have available budget for in terms of teachers and teaching assistants and student care coordinators, etc. For the subsidized schools, I have not heard any residual issues with their recruitment and their staffing. So I'm believing that they are all okay and fully staffed as they're responsible for their HR and staffing needs.
Okay. The FBE exams last year, I think you mentioned you were in the process of sort of analyzing the results and see how did the performance compare with, number one, I guess, your expectations and with historical data. Do you have any information on that?
Right now, I am still awaiting a fully comprehensive or parsed out report. It's quite a lot of information, and I would like to have it in a digestible form so that I can also take it to Parliament, because I know that that meeting will probably be called as well. And we're also awaiting the EGRA and EGMA result breakdown that was also completed around the ending of the school year. In terms of the results, I have to say it met my expectations. We know that this has been a challenge. We can always hope for the best. However, the reality is it is a system that is still being reviewed. That review report is supposed to be with me by January 2026, as I've mentioned before. And once we get that, we'll be able to make some short, mid, and long-term adjustments and plans for FBE as a whole and as a system. I know that there was a recent news report where Curaçao will be abolishing the exam or changing it. I have not yet reached out to my colleague minister to see what their thinking is on that. I'm unaware if Curaçao also did a review of the FBE system and the exam itself, but I will be reaching out. And we, of course, have the Vierlande Overleg consultation in November with the other ministers of education in the kingdom. So I'll be able to address it with them directly at that as well.
A couple more questions quickly. I've spoken with your cabinet about the ministry's approach towards mental health in the schools, and it seems to be more focused on, let's call it more crisis management, which is very different than teaching the students emotional intelligence. And, you know, as you sort of move through the community, you see that that's something that's a challenge. Have you considered sort of adjusting your thinking and curriculum to include teaching emotional intelligence versus only dealing with when things become a crisis?
That would be the goal. That will depend on resources. Of course, that is something I would like to see happen. That depends on resources from a financial perspective, from a human resource capacity perspective. We have the Student Support Services Division, which does their best with the limited resources and staff that they have available to them. And indeed, my approach would be to begin with emotional intelligence at an adult level. Because if you don't have emotionally intelligent teachers, you're never going to have emotionally intelligent students. And so that would be my focus if I were to have the resources to deviate and to add, so to speak, to what is already being done by the division. So that is something that we are looking at, but of course, again, resource dependent.
The last question. Again, there's a focus from the ministry in terms of special needs for students. Again, seems to be more focused on people who have learning challenges. But there's also groups within the schools that are gifted, that need more stimulation, that need access to more challenging curriculums. Is that something, again, also within your planning as minister?
Not right now. Right now, we are busy with a reform of Prince William Alexander School based on the investigation that occurred at that school in the beginning of my term. I believe that it's important that we get what is there right first, and then look at how we can address, for example, these gifted groups that you mentioned, considering, again, of course, that this is all very dependent on resources and available budget. So right now, with the limited resources and budget that we have, we're focusing on improving and fixing what is there, and then moving forward to how we can expand and improve upon what is not.